guys, so today I'm going to be doing my July wrap-up video, and I'm pretty excited about this wrap-up video in particular because basically during the month of July I made reading my bitch. Yes, I did. In July I read a total of 14 books. Now while 6 of them were graphic novels and 2 of them were novellas, I still read 6 full-length novels, so I'm pretty pleased with myself. Okay, so yeah, like I said, 14 books. I'm gonna go ahead and get on into it. The first book that I read during July was Jim Henson's Labyrinth, the novelization by A.C.H. Smith. If you don't know, Labyrinth is a movie that came out in the 80s. It stars David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly. It's amazing, fantastic masterpiece. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. And the story follows a young girl named Sarah who is very intrigued by fantasy. She is 15 years old, and this has her stepmother kind of looking down on her thinking, you need to be dating. You need to be doing the things that normal 15-year-olds do. During a night whenever her stepmother and her father are going out for a night on the town, Sarah is burdened with the task of having to babysit her little stepbrother. While she is babysitting him, she basically gets fed up with him and starts to recite the story of Labyrinth and tells her baby stepbrother of the Goblin King and how if he doesn't do what she wants him to, she's gonna sick the Goblin King on him. That's basically what happens. Sarah wishes her baby brother away. The Goblin King comes to collect, and then of course Sarah instantly regrets it. I of course gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It was amazing. I would definitely recommend it to fans of Labyrinth and even people who don't even know, because you should experience this in your life. The next 2 books that I read in July were both novellas, and they were The Assassin and the Pirate Lord and The Assassin and the Healer, both by Sarah J. Maas. Now I will tell you a little bit more about these because they are prequels. Helena Sardothian is a kick-ass assassin. She has a lot of intricate parts in her past that you don't learn about until further on into the Throne of Glass series, but you do get to learn about some key elements, most pertaining to when she was in the Assassin's League, and it is her job to kill the people that her boss tells her to. But things don't always go that way. Selena does have a conscience, and that comes into play very often. I gave The Assassin and the Pirate Lord 4 stars, and then I gave The Assassin and the Healer, I believe, 3.5 stars. The next book that I read was Season of the Witch by Mariah Fredericks. This is a book that I picked up because I heard that it was compared to like a mixture of The Craft and Mean Girls. The Craft is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's scary, it's funny, it's quirky, and it's incredible. So of course when I heard a book being compared to that movie, I was like, yes, I shall order you and love you. This book follows a teenage girl named Tony, and Tony, she has a reputation at school for basically being a bit of a boyfriend stealer, being that she has been the rebound to like every guy that she has dated. And when she dates a guy named Oliver, who is just coming out of a relationship with the most popular girl in school, Chloe, that does not bode well with Chloe. So Tony's got some pretty hard times ahead of her until she meets Cassandra. Now Cassandra is definitely an outcast. She's recently had a tragedy in her family that makes everyone kind of just stay even further away from her than they already did. But Cassandra befriends Tony whenever she realizes what a hard time she's having, and she tells her that she can help Tony by doing some witchcraft. I have to say, while I was very excited about this book, while I did enjoy the main character, I enjoyed her sass, I enjoyed her wittiness, and I enjoyed the relationship that she had with Cassandra, who is a character that I also really enjoyed. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars because overall it was a little too cliche. And I'm not saying that cliche reads are necessarily a horrible thing. If you're gonna write something cliche, you need to bring some new interesting elements into it. I did like Mariah Fredericks' writing, and I did like the characters. The overall progression of the story and the outcome was not mind-blowing, but it was still a pretty decent read. The next book that I read in July was Imaginary Girls by Nova Rinsuma. This book follows 2 sisters named Chloe and Ruby. Chloe is the younger sister and Ruby is the older sister, and she just has this way about her, this kind of compelling addictiveness that everyone just swarms to. One night when Ruby and Chloe are at a party over near a reservoir, Ruby dares Chloe to swim across the reservoir. Now this particular reservoir has been in their town for about 100 years. In the early 1900s, it was a town called Olive. So Ruby has always told Chloe there's many people down there who still live there that never wanted to leave and that stuck by it even when they flooded it in. Ruby tells everyone that Chloe is the best swimmer in the world and that she can swim all the way across the reservoir. And not wanting to disappoint her sister, Chloe does just that. Jumps in, swims halfway until she discovers the dead body of one of her classmates. Afterwards, Chloe is ripped away from Ruby, who is her sole guardian, which Chloe's father obviously knows instantly, and he takes Chloe from Ruby to live with him across the country. 2 years later, Chloe and Ruby have been, communicating somewhat, but not a whole lot, when one day Ruby shows up on Chloe's doorstep saying that she wants her back. And so Chloe runs away, travels across country, and returns back to her hometown. Now, Ruby promises Chloe that when she returns home, everything is going to be exactly the way it was, which, Chloe's obviously thinking, okay, that's not possible. A young girl is dead and everything has changed. But upon returning, Chloe quickly realizes that everything is just as Ruby said. Everything is exactly the same. This book was not what I was expecting it to be. I was going into it thinking it was kind of like a thriller, and it didn't really have any of those aspects. It was eerie and it was unsettling and it was very haunting, but it wasn't a thriller. The book is mainly about the characters and the relationship between Chloe and Ruby, and many things happen between them, but as a whole in the plot of the story, it kind of just remains stagnant. Having said that, I still really enjoyed this book and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. A lot of the time, I am the type of person who needs to know answers about everything. If there's something that's off, if there's something strange, if there's something that I just don't understand and that I need more information on, I want it, and I get annoyed whenever I don't get it. But in this instance, I enjoyed the way that Nova Rinsuma left things open. I enjoyed the mystery surrounding the plot and the characters and their outcomes. In that way, there was a lot of magical realism elements that I was not expecting, and I really, really, really enjoyed. The next book that I read in July was a graphic novel called Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky. It follows a woman named Suzanne, and Suzanne learned very early on in life when she had sexual contact with others or just sexual experiences with herself, she could make time stop. Later on in her life, she meets a man named Jonathan, and they quickly realize that they both have this same strange magical ability and they want to use it, but not necessarily to do the best things in life. They want to use it to rob a bank. Now, the art in the story was really great. I really enjoyed this type of artwork and the coloring. I enjoyed the story as well. I ended up giving Sex Criminals 4 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend it. The next graphic novel that I read in July was A Game of Thrones Volume 2 by George R.R. Martin, adapted by Daniel Abraham and art by Tommy Patterson. I wasn't crazy about the first volume. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but I ended up liking this one even more. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's just a continuation of the first book in the series, A Game of Thrones, and it was good. The next book that I read in July is a book that I buddy read with a couple of people, and I also read it on my Kindle, so I'll leave a picture right here. It is The Haunting of Sunshine Girl by Paige McKenzie, I believe her name is. I buddy read this with my friends Christy and Gabrielle. They're both fantastic people. Unfortunately, they don't have booktube channels, but Christy does have a YouTube channel that every single one of you needs to check out immediately. Please go and subscribe to her. Her content is incredible. And if you pressure her enough, I think that we can maybe get her to come over to BookTube, or at least like do some book reviews and like bookish type videos on her channel. The Haunting of Sunshine Girl follows a young girl named Sunshine, and Sunshine moves across country from Texas to Washington State. And the moment that Sunshine moves to this town, she gets this eerie, cold, dreadful feeling in her that she cannot describe and that no one else feels. And she gets it even more whenever she moves to her new house. Quickly upon arriving, she discovers that this house is haunted. She can hear the sound of laughter from a little girl, and then it turns even worse and she begins to experience the trauma and the tragedy that the little girl experienced in the house. But Sunshine does make a friend named Nolan who starts to help her out and just do some research on this haunted house, and they quickly discover that Sunshine has abilities that are making her a target to the ghost. Now, this story, like reading the plot, it's something that fascinates me. I love supernatural, paranormal, spooky things. But I have to say, I did not enjoy this book at all. Every single aspect of it was predictable. The writing was kind of cheesy. I kind of felt like I was reading like something set in the 80s, the way that the author would phrase Sunshine's interactions, and everything just seemed really dated whenever it clearly takes place in modern era. I need authenticity when I read a book. If you're writing historical fiction, you need to be authentic. If you're writing modern day, you also need to be authentic. It's the same thing in my book, no pun intended. But yeah, that The characters were not very well developed. The surprises and those sorts of things were not surprising to me. Everything was very predictable, and I would not recommend this book. The next book is another book that I read on my Kindle, so I'll leave a picture of it right here. It is Easy by Tamara Weber. This is a new adult series that so many people have been talking about lately. I've seen so many people reading it on Goodreads, so many people mentioning it on BookTube. New adult is not typically my favorite genre. I do like to delve into it from time to time, and I hadn't in a really long time, so I thought, okay, I'll pick this up. Easy follows a college student named Jacqueline who has recently broken up with her long-term boyfriend. She's not really sure what she's supposed to do. She moved to this particular college because of him, and she's kind of just left there like, okay, what do I do with my life now? Now, I do want to give a quick trigger warning for anyone who has issues reading about assault and sexual assault, because this book deals heavily with that. One night, Jacqueline is walking home from a Halloween party, and she is attacked by her ex-boyfriend's best friend. When another student, Lucas, breaks it up, beats the crap out of her ex's best friend, and basically saves her. Understandably, Jacqueline is going through a lot right now. On top of just having broken up with her boyfriend, she was nearly sexually assaulted, and she has to go through the aftermath of that. One good thing that did come out of that night is that she meets Lucas, who is a student in one of her classes that she's never even noticed before. But she quickly does begin to have a relationship with Lucas. So I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. It did not blow me away by any means. I thought it was going to be something really unique, and that's why everyone was going so crazy for it. But it wasn't. I mean, the plot was nothing original, but I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars because the writing was really, really good, and the lady can write a love scene. Next book that I read in July was another graphic novel, and it is The Origin, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer graphic novel, obviously. It's basically the plot and the setting for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the original movie that came out in like the early 90s, only it stays very true to Joss Whedon's script. Unfortunately, with that experience and that movie, it was one of those instances where the directors and producers took the script from Joss Whedon, took out everything they didn't like, and just kind of used what they did like. It was amazing to be able to see the actual vision and the story take place in this medium. Yes, it's Buffy, it's incredible, and this is the origin story. This is where it all began, and of course, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. The next 2 books that I read are more Buffy graphic novels that I'm not going to go into detail about. This is Buffy the Vampire Slayer Viva Las Vegas. I think I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And then the next graphic novel is Buffy the Vampire Slayer Spike and Drew. If you don't know, Spike is basically my favorite character in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I had to pick this up. Drew, I hate you, bitch. I want to just put my own picture right there. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. I think I gave it 3.5, 4 stars. It was interesting and entertaining and whatnot. It was nothing spectacular. And like I said, I hate Drusilla. But I do love Spike, so I still ended up enjoying it. Alright guys, getting down to the nitty gritty. I've got 2 more books here. We can do this. We can do it. The next one is another graphic novel. It is Black Widow, The Finely Woven Thread by, I don't know, their last names are Edmondson and Noto. Black Widow, if you don't know, she is a very big figure in the Marvel universe, particularly within S.H.I.E.L.D. She's kind of a rogue Russian assassin turned good guy. She's helping S.H.I.E.L.D. now. She's trying to redeem herself. It just showed her dealing with what's gone in her past and being haunted by her past, but trying to put that aside just to do some good. And she knows that she'll never make all of her wrongs right, but she's at least going to spend the rest of her life trying to do that. I ended up giving 4.5 stars out of 5. I thought it was really good. And the final book that I read in July was Splintered by A.G. Howard. This story follows a young teenage girl named Alyssa Gardner, and Alyssa is actually a descendant of Alice Little, who, if you don't know, was the inspiration for Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Alyssa's going through a lot. Her mother is currently in a psychiatric ward. She's been diagnosed with depression and schizophrenia, and it all stems on the fact that she talks about the characters in Alice in Wonderland as if they're real. A secret that Alyssa has been harboring is that she also has had experiences that have to do with the characters in Alice in Wonderland, and it's all stuff related to what her mother has gone through and what her mother has been committed for. Alyssa is then given the task to venture back into Wonderland to save her mother. Now, being a huge fan of Alice in Wonderland, I really enjoyed this retelling. Everything that A.G. Howard did was just so imaginative. She took Lewis Carroll's story and she made a story of her own. Now the writing was very good, but I will say that some of the language and certain phrases that were used were a little bit cheesy in my opinion, coming straight out of the mouth of like 16-year-olds. But you know, I'm gonna let it slide. That wasn't a huge factor. It was just, again, something about authenticity for me. Overall, I ended up really enjoying it and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I have been filming for about an hour now and I need to end this before I lose all memory on my camera. In the comments below, I would really love for you guys to let me know what you read in July. Also, if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Did you like them? Did you not like them? You guys know all the stuff I want to know down below. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and I will see you in my next one.